What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hawk Talk on Melrose YouTube page, where we are going to talk some Hawks. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and share with your friends. That is all we ask, and let's roll. All right, here we go. My annual men's basketball preview on Iowa Hoops. I do this every year. Always have a lot of fun doing it. Can't believe we are gearing up for basketball season. Seems like football season just started, and we still have a few more months of football season. This is why, for me, the month of November and December are like my favorite. Number one, you have the holidays, but then you have both football and basketball to look forward to. And believe it or not, Iowa men's basketball has an Expedition game this upcoming Friday. I'm recording this on Wednesday, October 23rd. And then they open up the season pretty much a week and a half from now on Monday, November 4th. So ready or not, basketball season is here. So let's begin. Before I kind of get into this season, I do want to kind of take a step back and kind of see how we got here, right? So going into last year was the first year that was kind of the end of the era in terms of, like, you know, for a few years there, we had Wieskamp and Garza, we had the Murray twins, we had, you know, Connor McCaffrey, Bohannon, and going into last year was kind of that first year of like not having any of those guys. I know like Garza and all them were years prior to that. I'm just talking in general. None of those guys were on the team anymore, right? The last one being Chris Murray and Connor McCaffrey. So last year's team, a very young team. Now, yes, we had Tony Perkins, Patrick McCaffrey, Payne Sanford, but for the most part, we were kind of relying on the freshmen to be almost role players for us. And that's a really tough task to do because a lot of those guys are not high star, high rated guys that are, you know, need to develop. And we saw the ups and downs of them, right? The inconsistencies. And going into last year, I said, when I did my annual preview show, I said, this team is probably a borderline bubble team. And in a way, that was pretty much accurate because we went into the end of last year where all we needed was a few games to go our way. At Illinois, home against Illinois on senior night, the Big Ten tournament, you know, can you win one or two games there? And you're talking, not saying we were going to get in, but you're talking on Selection Sunday, we're all glued to the TV because it's like, well, maybe there's a chance that we might get in. But we were just out of it, losing Illinois at home on senior night and frankly, kind of getting blown out that game, even though we kind of came back towards the end. That game was just ugly from the get-go. We got down like 20-some to 2. And then the Big Ten tournament, not winning the game. Yeah, you're not going to make the tournament at that point. We get to the NIT. And the problem is the expectation going to last year, it's like, yeah, the NIT is definitely on the table, but it just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth, right? Because you saw some of the opportunities throughout the year last year where it's like, man, like we are playing good and then we play bad. And it's like, gosh, if we just have a couple games go our way, we might make it. And then you see like the other team in the state, you know, do really good. Iowa State, Drake's makes it. And so you kind of feel left out and it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Not only that, but if you make it the NIT, I know it doesn't really matter, but let's win the NIT. And then getting blown out at Utah doesn't help the cause at all. So now we forward to this year. And this team, in my opinion, has a way better shot at making the tournament. And I will give you my season-ending predictions towards the back end of this episode. But when you look at this team, it starts from the top, right? You kind of have your big three in Owen Freeman, Payne Sanford, and Josh Dix. Now, yes, they're not LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh when I say big three, but those three guys on any given night can get you 40, 45, 50 points combined, right? I'm expecting a big year in Payne Sanford, a guy that could have easily went to the NBA. You know, a guy that could put up 20 points. Josh Dix, you saw last year what he is capable of. Can he take that next step? Can he get you anywhere from 10 to 15 points? And then Owen Freeman, who averaged a little over 10 points last year as a freshman, can he take that next step and get you 15-ish points a game? And at that point, those three guys alone, once again, can get you on average 45 points a night, which is huge. Okay. And then we were just talking about the freshmen that had to step up last year. All those guys are now sophomores. We just talked about Owen Freeman, but the other three guys that were way more inconsistent because they were freshmen. Bryce Sanford, right? He came off the bench for us last year. made a few threes here or there, but he was wildly inconsistent. Can he come off the bench this year and knock down some threes on a more consistent basis? Brock Harding, who surprisingly is probably going to start, according to reports. He's had a great offseason. To me, like last year, the game just seemed too fast for him, and he didn't shoot the ball very well. So those areas need to improve. But if those did improve, that is huge for us. And then Laji DeBele, another guy that, once again, the game just seemed a little too fast for him. But he's very athletic. He can guard, he can rebound, he can block shots. And those three guys, in my opinion, are all X factors for us, right? Because those are going to be role players that we need every single time we play to, like, hey, one of you guys at least need to, like, have like a really good game where, you put up some points and things like that, right? Now all three need to be good defensively, but I'm talking offense. On the offense side of the ball, right? They all need to be a little bit more consistent. Those three guys are all X factors, especially on the offense side of the ball. And then we went out and we got 2 transfers. Not 5-star, highly recruited transfers, but I think these 2 guys really fit in to what we are wanting to do, right? Because we need to be more athletic, especially on the defense side of the ball. We go out first, we get the guard, Drew Thelwell. He's a proven winner. He's made it to the tournament. Probably not going to start. Once again, I was just talking about Brock Harding, probably starting over him, which I think that might be one of those things where as the season goes on, kind of a back and forth thing. But regardless, Drew is going to play a lot this year. He's going to come off the bench and he's going to provide, a guy that can guard out on the perimeter, can make some shots. And I'm really excited for him. And then the other guy that I'm even more excited about is Seydou Traore from Manhattan. This is a guy that we desperately needed for the defensive side of the ball, where he is very, 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 very athletic. We need that can rebound, that can block shots, that can do those type of things, but then also provide a little bit on the offense side of the ball. Now, you get those guys, you get the big 3 that I was kind of talking about, and Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, and Payne Sanford, and then you get the X factors for me, and then the 2 freshmen, Chris Taggio and Cooper Koch, which I think Chris Taggio probably will redshirt this year. You might see him from time to time, but from what I've heard, is he's still, probably a year away from making noise. But Cooper Koch is a guy that will probably see the court a decent amount this year and will be what we kind of relied on the freshmen last year to do this year, where, he's going to come in, he's going to be a key rotational piece, and he can make threes. And so we're going to need him, right? We're going to need him to be the guy that can come off the bench as well and help us out. So expect maybe not a huge freshman year for Cooper, but he's definitely going to play. Like, I'm kind of thinking he's going to be kind of like the Price Sanford that we had last year, where, he came in, knocked down some shots here or there. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I shared the screen where I do my projected starting 5 plus the backups, and then also what I think the points per game is going to be. Last year, and I'm not trying to brag when I say this, I was very surprised how close I was on a lot of the guys in their points per game. And so I'm going to try to do it again, and I'm going to keep close tabs on it, see how close, or hopefully not too far away from what I kind of think it's going to be. So as you can see here, my starting 5, I have Brock Harding, and I made this actually a couple weeks ago. And when I made this, I actually had Drew Thelwell as a starting point guard, but the more I heard about Brock really having a great offseason, and don't be surprised if he starts. And then they had their their secret scrimmage last Sunday or maybe last Saturday against Southern Illinois, which I'll get into a little bit here in a short minute. He started that game. And so I expect him to start. I have Josh Dix at the 2, Payne Sanford at the 3. Now, this one was tough at the 4 because Laji actually started during the secret scrimmage. But I believe as the year goes on, at some point, and maybe it'll be kind of back and forth. Maybe one game it's one guy, the other game it's another guy. I think Seydou is going to start at some point. I think he just has that athletic ability, that something that we have not had for a while. I'm not saying Laji doesn't either, but I just have a feeling that Seydou is going to start at some point, especially because I think he's a little bit more of an asset on the offense side of the ball. I'm not saying he's great offensively, but he's probably a little bit more of an asset compared to Laji. And then Owen Freeman starting. And then backups, Drew Thelwell, Bryce Sanford, Cooper Koch, Lodgy, and then Evan Bronze. And then even further down the list, I have Riley Mulvey, which you'll probably see maybe from time to time. And then Chris Taggio, once again, I could see him redshirting this year. Maybe not, though. Maybe he will play a little bit. And then points per game, I have us as a total about 82 points per game, which is pretty good. That's about what we always are. We're a decent offensive team. I have Brock Harding finishing with 7.7 points per game. Josh Dix with 13.6. So that's a pretty big uptick compared to last year, but I think he's going to be a main focus point for us. Payne Sanford at 17.3, leading the way. Seydu at 6.1, and then Owen Freeman, 14.9. And then backups, Drew Thelwell at 6.5 points per game. Really close to Brock Harding because I believe that they're both going to, even though maybe Brock Harding starts, I think when you look at total minutes played each game, they're going to be about even. And then you have Bryce Sanford at 5.2 points per game. I do think he's going to be a little bit more consistent on the offense side of the ball, maybe knock down a couple threes a game. Cooper Koch at 4.3. I'm really high on this guy, by the way. I think he can be our go-to three-point shooter off the bench. Lodgy at 4.9, and then Evan Bronze at 1.1. You're probably not going to see a whole lot of Evan Bronze or Riley Mulvey, but enough where like they might play a little bit and they might score a basket. And so you got to put something for points per game. Evan Bronze will probably be a type of guy when we're playing a team that is pretty big, or if Owen Freeman gets into foul trouble, because that was one of his big things last year, was always getting into foul trouble, then yes, you'll probably see Evan Bronze play, or they might move Lodgy to maybe center and then keep Seydu at power forward. So that is my projected starting five with the backups and points per game, 82.1 points per game. And here's the thing. Offensively, I'm not worried about. I'm never worried under Fran McCaffrey about the offense. Now, last year, we did dip in the three-point percentage and just making three-point shots. That's something that needs to be better this year. But I'm never too worried about the offensive side of the ball. It's more the defense. And it's going to be the big story because at some point, can we be better defensively? If we can get to a point, and it's similar to football, right? Can the offense be better in football, but can the defense be better in basketball? Because seriously, we are really close to taking that next step. And when I say taking that next step, that's making the tournament, which we've had a decent amount the last how many years? Not last year, but before that. But can you make it to the second weekend? That is taking that next step. And how do you make it to the second weekend? You got to be better on the defense side of the ball. It's as easy as that. You go back to a couple years ago when we got upset against Richmond. Offensively, we didn't play very good, but that was the thing. In the tournament, you're not going to guarantee that you're going to play good offensively every single night. And so you got to have a defense to step up just in case your offense doesn't come or doesn't show. And we couldn't make anything that game against Richmond, and if you had a better defense, it wouldn't have mattered, right? You would have been able to escape that. Would have been close, but okay, we got out of that alive. But when you don't have a good defense, you're pretty much screwed because if you can't make shots, but the other team is getting what they want because your defense stinks, you're going to lose that game. And so we got to be better defensively. That's been the main focus point during the offseason. But man, just like football with the offense, I got to see it to believe it. They can talk all they want about, oh, we're doing this different, or, we're focusing on this or that. But until I see a better defensive effort, it's going to be hard for me to say that it's going to be a lot better. Also, by the way, they did have their secret scrimmage last Saturday against Southern Illinois. Owen Freeman, Payne Sanford, Brock Harding, Dix, and DeBelle were all starters that game. We won 92-70. The first half, it was 45-32. Brock Harding finished with 7 points, 5 assists, and 4 steals. By the way, I had him a little above 7 points for points per game because I just think that's kind of where he's going to average. Assists and steals are going to be big for Brock Harding this year. If he can get a decent amount of steals and just be that aggressive type on defense, but then also be a good facilitator, that's huge. Dix at 11 points, DeBelle at 6, Payne Sanford at 16, Freeman at 16, and Seydu Traore at 10. And then someone said the defense did look better and far more athletic. However, didn't shoot the ball very good. In my opinion, though, if you're putting up 92 points and you didn't shoot the ball very good, that's pretty good, in my opinion. But we only shot 25% from three, which once again, we need that number to be up more, especially if the defense is still going to be iffy, because let's face it, it's probably going to be that. I mean, we can act like it's going to be a lot better, but it's so hard for me to say it's going to be under Fran McCaffrey. But surprisingly, in that group, though, like seeing Seydou Traore with 10 points, I mean, that's huge for us because once again, like he's going to be a guy that we brought in because he's very athletic and we're relying on him defensively. But if he's going to get you, and I'm not saying he's going to get 10 points every game, but if he can get you, 6 to 10 points, that's huge for us. It really is. And then seeing Owen Freeman, I really do think he's going to take that next step. Great freshman year for us. Once again, he just got into foul trouble so much for us last year. And it was really hard to just, when you're constantly going to the bench to stay hot. And so if he can fix that problem, he's going to be out on the court a lot. He's going to get a lot of looks down low. And, if he can improve his jump shot a little bit, I think it's really easy for him to average around 15 plus points per game. All right, now I'm going to go through my game-by-game prediction. Do this pretty quick here. So once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the screen. On the way left, I have what the Ken Pom rating is. So this first game, Texas A&M Conference that we play on November 4th, they're Ken Pom at 360. I didn't include, when you're really that bad, I didn't include what would be right next to it would be their offensive efficiency and then defensive efficiency right next to that. And then obviously the date, the opponent, and then I have whether we'll be 1-0 and then the Big Ten, record. And then if it's going to be as of right now, kind of like, will it be a quad 4, quad 3, quad 2, quad 1? Now, obviously that's going to change as the year goes on, but kind of what I think. So first game, obviously easy win. We should have no problem. If we lose that game, then you might as well cancel the season. Then we play Southern. Another game, going to be a quad 4 game at home, win. South Dakota, bigger test, but still another game that we should have no problem. You can see their Ken Pom at 265, another quad 4 game, 3-0. And then this is our first kind of quote unquote legit game, Washington State. Now they did lose their head coach from last year. So with that, a lot of new players, they're Ken Pom at 111. So not a horrible team, but this game is in, I think, the Quad Cities, Moline, which Owen Freeman, Brock Harding is going to be like a homecoming game for them. This will probably be a quad 3 opponent for us, and I think we should win. We should have no problem, especially with the guys that they lost. Now, remember, this is a team that played Iowa State last year in the tournament. Once again, new coach, a lot of new players. Then we play Ryder, another game that no problem with. And then Utah State. This game is played in Kansas City. This is going to be a tough challenge for us. They're Ken Pom at 72. They're not a bad team at all. There's going to be a lot of Iowa fans there because it's in Kansas City. It's probably going to be a quad 2 game for us, and I think we should win. We will be the better team in that game. And then we play Southern Carolina Upstate. I have that as a win. And then we get into Big Ten play. So we always play 2 games in December, and it seems like clockwork every year. We always play Purdue to start the Big Ten season. Fortunately for us, we're at home, and we play Northwestern, who I think will be still a decent team, but they're definitely going to take a step back this year without Boo Buie, their leading all-time scorer for Northwestern. It seems like it's been so long when we started Big Ten play 1-0. It seems like every year, because more times than not, we play Purdue. We're always 0-1, 0-2, and hell, sometimes even 0-3 to start Big Ten play. We cannot let that happen. We did that last year. If you don't recall, we played Purdue, then we played Michigan, then we played Wisconsin, and we started 0-3. We kind of climbed out of it, but you just can't let that happen. I say we win that game, and we're 8-0, 1-0 in the Big Ten, and then we play at Michigan. This is, I think, going to be our first loss. I think this will be a close game, but I'm a little bit more high on Michigan than maybe some people are. They bring in the coach from Florida Atlantic, bring in some transfers. They're going to be a better team than what Michigan's been the last few years. They're Ken Pom at 36. It'll be our first legit road game because the other 2 quote unquote road games were all neutral site games. And I think we lose that game, which is fine, by the way. We don't, it's not like a game that is a must win. We're 8-1, 1-1. It'll be a quad 1 game anyways. If we lose it, it's not that big of a deal. And then we play Iowa State at home. Hopefully it'll be like 2022 again. However, I think this Iowa State team is too good. And I think we'll lose this game. I think it will be one of those games like 2022 where like we shot lights out. That's something that would need to happen for us to win this game. And is that going to happen? I don't know. I'm going to say we lose that game and we're 8-2, 1-1. Then we play New Orleans, should be a win. Then we play Utah in South Dakota, Sioux Falls. So there's going to be a lot of Iowa fans there. This Utah team, we played them last year. They're Ken Palmed at 82. So they're actually, according to Ken Palm, worse than Utah State. So if we can beat Utah State, we should beat Utah. We'll be 10-2, 1-1. And I think we got one or two more games here, or one more game, non-conference against New Hampshire, and we should win that game. We'll be a quad 4 game. So going into now the Big Ten play into January, we should be, in my opinion, 11-2, 1-1. I think anything worse than that, it's like, because like the schedule is really not that tough. Anything better than that, that's great, because that means you either beat Michigan on the road, which is a quad 1 game, or you beat Iowa State at home, which is another quad 1 game. So I believe 11-2 though. All right. Then we play at Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin to me, I don't think it's going to be as good as they have been. The problem though is the last time we have won at the Kohl Center was, what was it, 2017 or 2018 when Jordan Bohannon made that clutch 3 at the end of the game. It just seems like that place, for whatever reason, we never play good at. And so I'm going to expect that to be a loss. Until we can beat them up there, I expect that game to be a loss. 11-3, 1-2 in Big Ten play. And then we play Nebraska at home. Definitely not going to be the same Nebraska team as last year. I don't think they'll be bad, but they were pretty damn good last year. And I expect a home game for us to get kind of back on track. We're 1-2. We need that win, and I think we get the win. And we are 12-3, 2-2. Then we play Indiana at home. Now, this is a game we always seem to lose, a game that we shouldn't, or like a big game at home. There's a couple games later on that I think that could happen. I think we win this game, though. I think this will be a big opportunity for Iowa, sitting at 12-3. Indiana will be a pretty good team, and I think we can win this game, get 13-3, 3-2 in the Big Ten. And then we have our 2 road going out west games at USC, at UCLA. I might as well just put both of them up because, in my opinion, we're going to lose 1, win 1. I don't know. I have USC as a win, UCLA as a loss, because that's probably more realistic, but I do think we'll win at least one of those games on the road. And so whether it's USC or UCLA, we will then be, after that road trip out west, 14-4 and 4-3 in Big Ten play, which is not bad, by the way. Then we play Minnesota and Penn State at home, both teams that are going to probably be more towards the bottom of the Big Ten. They're Ken Palm at 51-61. We can't lose these 2 games. You just can't. These are 2 games you got to win. And if you can win those 2 games, which I project, we should be 16-4, 6-3 in Big Ten play. And then we play at Ohio State. I'm actually really high on Ohio State this year. I think they're going to be a really good basketball team on the road. It's going to be very tough. I expect that to be a loss. And then we play Purdue at home. This is a game where it's like, God, we're at home. We should upset them. We should beat them. But it just seems like we just fall short every year. There's always a game that we fall short. I expect it to be this game. This would be a huge, massive win at home, especially coming off Ohio State loss. But I expect us to lose. I hope we don't, but I'm kind of expecting that. And we're 16-6, 6-5 in Big Ten play. Then we play Wisconsin at home. Going back to what I said earlier, I don't think this Wisconsin team is going to be as good as like last year's team. And we lost already to them on the road. I expect we come back home. I think this is I believe either a Saturday or Sunday game. So there's going to be, it'll be a good, or hopefully a good crowd in the stands, and we should get this win and be 17-6, 7-5. And by the way, at this point, you're feeling pretty good, right, for the tournament with that record. Then we play at Rutgers. Don't think this Rutgers team is going to be as good as they've been. They lost their best player, forgot what his name is, went to Alabama. They are kind of relying on these young freshmen that are highly rated to come in. One being Harper. I don't know what his name is, but the guy from a couple years ago, his brother. But the problem is it's on the road, and I just feel like that's a really tough place to win at. And so I'm going to say we lose that game, and then we play at Maryland. So it's just tough, right? So about a month earlier, you go out west and play 2 games, in, a couple days. And then you go out east and you play at Rutgers, at Maryland. And I just think it's tough. I don't know. I expect both of these to be losses. Now, if we can win one of these games, that is huge. And so as you're sitting in here and you're looking at the screen, you're starting to see a lot of red show up, right? Because, at Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland, that's why it's so vital that we beat Minnesota, Penn State, Nebraska, Indiana, and hopefully one of the games on the road out west, because the back end of the schedule is kind of tough, and you need a lot of road games. We play a lot of road games to end the season, so we got to stack up some wins early on. That way, if we do drop a few, it doesn't really matter. Then we play Oregon and Washington at home. This Oregon team, in my opinion, pretty dang good. They're Ken Palm at 29. Washington, not very good. They're Ken Palm at 75. I have both of those games as wins for us. I do think we'll knock off Oregon, and it'll be a huge game because I do expect Oregon to be pretty good. And if we can beat both of those teams, we are sitting at 19-8, 9-7. Then we play at Illinois. Just such a tough place to win at. I don't know when the last time we've won there. And they're Ken Palm at 23. I expect that to be a loss. We play at Northwestern. As of right now, I have this as a win, but man, I could see that being a loss as well. But I'm going to say we win that game. And then we play Michigan State at home, and then Nebraska end the season, which I have Michigan State being a win, and then at Nebraska being a loss, because I remember being at the last time we played at Nebraska, which was it last year? Or maybe no, it was 2 years ago, and it was such a horrible game. That's a really tough place to win at as well. And so I have that as a loss. Finishing out the year then 21-10 and 11-9 in Big Ten play. Once again, before I kind of get into the rest of the way, a lot of road games to end the season. A lot. I mean, you're looking from February 12th to March 9th, or you have more away games than you have home games. So you got to take advantage, like I said, of earlier on in the season to rack up some wins. Got to take advantage of the games at home. Like when you're playing Oregon at home, Indiana at home, Purdue at home, even though I have a loss, you got to take advantage. You got to win those games. But I think 21-10 and 11-9 in Big Ten play gets you in the tournament, because I expect the Big Ten to bring 10 teams to the tournament. Honestly, unless it ends up being a really poor conference, which I don't think. I think it's going to be a solid conference. I think at least 10 teams. And so at 21-10, 11-9 Big Ten play, you're in the top 8-9 in the standings, and you're making the tournament, in my opinion. Now, what are we going to be seeded wise? That's probably the next question. I think at that point, it kind of determines, okay, if you're 21-10, 11-9 Big Ten, you make it to the Big Ten tournament, which, by the way, the Big Ten tournament, they don't bring everybody. It's only the top 15 teams, by the way. But I don't think we should have to worry about that this year. But if you can maybe rack some wins up there, get 1 or 2 wins there, 7 seed, 8 seed maybe. I don't really want to be an 8 seed or a 9 seed or 10 seed. A 7 seed I think would be great. 6 seed would be great. I don't really expect that. But I am going to project, though, that this team does make the tournament. Seed-wise, though, I think that's a little bit tougher. I think anywhere from 7 to 10 is kind of where my guess will be for this season, which, in my opinion, would be a successful season. Now, you might define a successful season a little bit different, because for a lot of people, it's making it to the second weekend. But in my opinion, you can't make it to the second weekend if you don't make the tournament at all. So let's get to that point first, and then we can worry about making it to the second weekend, right? And so for me, make the tournament. That's a good season. And I think this team has what it takes to make the tournament. I mean, I talked about it earlier on. You got the experienced guys, you got guys that are capable of shooting the ball well. You brought in some talent, you brought in some guys that can be good on the defense side of the ball, and you got some guys that you had to rely on last year as freshmen to step up. Now they're all a little bit older. They're another year in the system, another year getting bigger, stronger, faster. Should be better, right? I'm not saying it always is the case, but your hope is that they are. And I think this team has what it takes to be a pretty good squad this year. And when you look at all the power rankings, you look at all the projections and things like that, a lot of people are kind of overlooking this Iowa team. And I think they are going to be better than what some people think. So that will do it for this episode. I hope you learned a little bit about Iowa men's basketball if you didn't really maybe know much about them going in. I'm really excited for the season. I'm still in full football mode. It takes me a while to really get into full basketball mode, but I'm still going to watch every game and cheer them on and really get into them because for me, like Iowa football, Iowa men's basketball are my two favorite sports when it comes to Iowa athletics. Iowa women's basketball, by the way, really fun to watch, and I'm really intrigued to see kind of how they perform post Caitlin Clark era. And I'm really excited to watch them as well because I think they have a lot of pieces. I think getting Lucy Olson was massive for them to kind of replace Clark. She's never going to be a Clark, right? But can you get close to that, right? With Lucy Olson, who was a second leading or third leading scorer in the country last year in women's basketball. So I'm really excited for women's basketball as well. Just going to be a fun time of the year, right? Because you still got football, even though the football program is not doing very well. And it kind of seems like the season's over with without, right? Because you can't make the playoffs anymore. You can't make the Big Ten tournament or Big Ten championship, but still got games, still going to watch. And then you got the men's and women's team as well. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening, and go Hawks.